All right, let's talk habits. You know, those ones that you're supposed to be building on a daily basis, because that's a habit, right? Each and every day that we're building up. But we kind of have that endless to-do list. We don't even know where we're going to start. We don't know how we're going to manage to begin creating habits when our list is as long as Texas, right? Yeah. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Sandy, and you have entered a wildcrafted life. I hope today will bring you some value as we lean into what it means to live a wildcrafted life, how to do that, and how to do it with less overwhelm. Are you ready? Let's get started. So, if you're anything like me, you're a squirrel. I don't know if everybody's a squirrel like I am, but my husband says I'm a squirrel. I have more ideas than I have probably time to do any of them. And I find myself constantly on this squirrel or this rabbit wheel of ideas, of thoughts, of where I want to go, what I want to do, all the dreams that I have, all the things I want to do, right? But most of the time, I'm sitting in a state of overwhelm. So, a long time ago, had 5 kids, still have 5 kids, but they were little. And I've always been this kind of person who wants to do all the things. So I am a personal trainer forever, for 22 years. I was a homeschool mom. I led some different Bible studies. I did various things that never seemed to be able to get out of kind of that place of always working around and doing things with everybody, right? But I had 5 kids. And so I was in this constant place of morning routines, afternoon routines, evening routines, just to keep some sanity. And I can't even say that I was very good at that. I do remember a time when I felt so unbelievably overwhelmed, so overwhelmed. I remember walking around saying to myself all the time, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And I remember one day thinking to myself, you say that to yourself a lot. It wasn't like I was saying it out loud. I was just saying it in my mind all the time. It was like this self-sabotaging mindset that I continued to have day after day after day after day. And it truly was sabotaging my efforts. It was putting me in a bad mood. It made me not like my kids, right? And I love my kids. If you ask them, hopefully they'll tell you the same thing. But I did find myself in this place of just constant overwhelm. So I really wanted to lean in and share with you guys today some of the things that I've done in order to help decrease that overwhelm. So, right, let's just be real. Every one of us have a list long of not just our responsibilities, which tend to be super, super long, right? You get up every day, you got to go to work, or if you're a stay-at-home mom and you're homeschooling your kids, you've got routines you got to get on top of, dishes that maybe from the night before, kids' diapers that need to be changed, lessons that need to be started, right? And you're feeling like this total sense of like, oh my gosh, I'm like a pressure cooker. If you are canners out there, some people are so afraid of the pressure cooker, right? Because they're afraid it's going to explode. Do you ever feel like that? You ever feel like you kind of got that pressure cooker going on in your own life? I know I did. I did for many, many years. And I just felt like, oh my gosh, I'm absolutely going to explode. Like if I can simply make sure I get my hair brushed and my teeth brushed and a shower in, I'm feeling like I'm calling it a victory, right? You feel me right there? So this is really where habits come in. Growing up, I grew up in the gym. I was an elite gymnast, and in order to perfect the skills that we needed to perfect in my gymnastics, I had to make sure that I was developing habits. And one of the things that we did a lot were drills. Drills, drills, drills. The same thing over and over and over. And I remember thinking to myself, I am so tired of walking the balance beam and pointing my toes and walking more and pointing my toes like, oh my gosh, can I just get on to the big things, right? But what that really did was it cemented that muscle memory for my body so that when it was time for me to perform at a high level, it was automatic. It just came automatic like that. So there were boring things that I had to do, boring drills that then became habits. I didn't have to think about it anymore. I really didn't even have to work in those particular drills anymore because I had them down. They became ingrained and they became a habit. So let's lean in and talk about what kind of drills can you have in your home that can become habits. Because habits don't just happen overnight. Habits are a byproduct of you making, number one, a decision then to choose to move forward in an area. So let's think, where do you want some real progress in your life? Are you someone who, or do you have a homestead? And you're like, I have no idea where to start. I don't know what to do. I am failing at everything. I feel like a complete idiot because I told people I was going to do this. Or maybe it's in your parenting. Maybe it's in your job. Maybe it is in your relationships that you just feel like you are constantly playing catch up all the time. This is really where habits come in. But first and foremost, you got to make a decision. So you have to make a decision. What is it that you want? Do you want a happier marriage? Do you want a more efficient running homestead? Maybe you want an efficient program for your everyday life because you've got to get off to work the 9-to-5 job, right? So find out what that decision is for you. What is that why? And then why do you want it? Because if we don't know why we want it, we're never going to stick with the drills. Let's go back to my gymnastics. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to be an Olympian. So even though the drills were boring, even though I had to do them every day, I knew that by doing them, I was going to have the outcome I was looking for. So my why kept me tethered to those drills that became habits, okay? When those habits begin to be performed on a daily basis in our lives, then that creates less overwhelm. So I was going to share with you a book that I read years ago called Atomic Habits. And in Atomic Habits, James Clear is the author. He writes, habits are mental shortcuts learned from experience, okay? So you're creating drills. For example, you brush your teeth every day, right? That's a drill that you started. I want clean teeth. I want fresh breath. I want them to be nice and white. So I'm going to brush them every day. So that drill is attached to your why. I want to have a pretty smile. I don't want to have bad breath, right? So you get up every morning and you choose to brush your teeth. Maybe you chose it in the beginning, but it's become a habit. It's a habit that you've learned through experience, right? The people who don't have habits handled are often the ones with the least amount of freedom. So let's think about this. If you are someone who has not created some habits around, let's say just even around your finances, you're just spending money anywhere, you're not budgeting anything, what happens at the end of the month? You got more month than you've got money. And what does that do? That straps you to that 9-to-5 job, or it straps you into having to hustle to find something else to try to make there be more money at the end of your month. But it doesn't have to be that way. If you begin to develop a disciplined habit, let's even call it a drill. Sometimes it's easier, whatever word you need to use, develop that disciplined drill, that disciplined habit in one area of your life. And you're going to begin to see that area not feel so overwhelming. If you feel like you're having a hard time even with simple decisions, like whether or not you should take a shower, whether or not you should make your bed, when should you work out, when should you try to prep for dinner, those, you guys, are really simple decisions that sometimes can get really on the plate of overwhelm because we begin to overthink everything. We begin to feel like we can't even make a simple, logical decision that will help move our needle forward. So one of the things that James Cleary talks about here is when you can't make those simple decisions, then you begin to lack the time freedom because your brain is taken up with trying to just make simple decisions. When those things become on autopilot, you know every day what you're going to have for dinner because it's already been written down. You've developed a habit of maybe on Sundays creating that pattern for yourself, getting ready for your week, right? You're writing down what your weekly meals are going to look like. Some people I know when my kids were little, I had a calendar up on my refrigerator. It was just a blank calendar. It was for nothing more except for meals. And I'd plan out a whole month of what I called my bare bones. Monday is spaghetti night. Tuesday is taco night. Wednesday is whatever night, right? And I would just put that. And then I knew that when I got up in the morning, I'd look at the calendar and I'd be like, oh, I got to make sure I'm thawing out some hamburger today. Or the next day, okay, today's leftover day. I know I'm going to take all these leftovers and I'm going to make a kitchen soup, right? So it takes that overwhelm and it takes that constant thinking about what's for dinner, what's for dinner, what's for dinner off the brain. When you take that off the brain or even off your plate, think about it like a big plate. You take that off your plate, there's a little bit less to have to be constantly thinking about in the background, right? So you're developing those habits surrounding whatever it is that you're trying to move the needle forward in. All right, so let's break down habits that you need in order to live a well-crafted life. So number one, starting the day with focus. How often do you, number one, go to bed really late because you're so creative and you want to kind of get ahead, right? So you go to bed late and you wake up late. Are you one of those people that snooze on the alarm? If you have kids, you're probably not able to do that. But I have found that when I wake up, I get up. I don't know if you guys have ever listened to Mel Robbins. Mel Robbins has this one, I'm pretty sure it's a book. I've heard it in her podcast where she counts backwards from 5. She wakes up and she counts backward from 5 and she says, I will get up no matter what at 1. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, get out of bed, right? It becomes a discipline because you don't feel like it all the time, but it becomes a discipline, then that becomes a habit. So what I would do is I would make sure that when I would wake up in the morning, I would get up. I do the same thing today. It doesn't always matter what time it is. Well, sometimes it does. But I would start my day with focus. And so often, especially if you have little people, or if you have a job, or you are somebody who's highly creative, the first thing you're going to want to do when you get up is you're going to want to the brain is going to want to get moving and going. Your cortisol levels are at your highest in the morning, so you have the most brain capacity first thing in the morning. But I would really encourage you to start out that focus first thing in the morning, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes where you're quiet. You don't have to be up at 5. You don't have to be up slinging stuff and hustling at first thing in the morning. Give your body and your mind time to acclimate to your morning. Maybe you like to get up, put your robe on, go in and make a cup of coffee, keep all the lights really low, go sit on the couch or go sit. For me, I love to go sit out here in the sunroom and I just watch the fog lift off the lake. It gives me those few minutes to just enjoy my morning, get up and have some gratitude. I'll have my coffee, I will speak my gratitude, I will sit in quiet, I'll pray. Sometimes I will read at that time, sometimes not till later, but it's still that idea of that habit of getting up and having 15 to 20 minutes of just quiet gratitude time, okay? So that is one habit that you can do that will help start that day off a little calmer and a less chaotic. Number 2, small steps bring big change, okay? Let me say it again. Small steps bring big change. If you want to live a wild, crafted life, you want to start small. When I was training for the Olympics, I didn't start throwing major big tricks in the gym right away. I started small. Remember we were talking about the drills? It was constant drills day after day after day in the gym that got me to the point where I could begin to throw the big tricks and become Olympic worthy. You know, when Muhammad Ali was in the ring, that's where he shined. But what did he do every single day in the gym? He was throwing constant right hook, right hook, right hook, right, jab, 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 uppercut, 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 right? Kind of like the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off, right? Boring, boring drills. But when we start small like that, it creates bigger change. So let's think about this real quick. Number 1, we want to start small but we want to be consistent at those small things. Oftentimes when I'm working with different clients that are talking to me about how they keep all these sabotaging things are happening in their life, we kind of sit back and I ask them, okay, we talked about doing one thing, just one thing. Let's say it's your finances. Because oftentimes we want to take on too many things. We're trying to create too many drills and too many habits, right? So let's just say you want to get ahead of your finances. You want to create one small habit. So you want to sit back and ask yourself, why do I have too much month at the end and not enough money? You need to look at that, right? Are you spending too much? Are you going out and getting Starbucks coffee every day? Or the $4, or maybe it's $5. I don't even know. I don't drink Starbucks coffee, but let's say it's a $5 coffee. Okay, $5 a day, even at just 5 days a week, is $25 a week, $100 a month, $1,200 a year, right? $100 a month may not seem like a lot until you realize that it's not just that Starbucks coffee that's doing that. You've got a Netflix account, you have a Disney account, you have a magazine subscription. And before you know it, you're up to, let's say, $350 a month that's going out the door when it could be going to something else, right? So you create one habit. If it's around your finances, you look at where is my spending going and where could I then begin to save? I don't have to make more money. I just need to spend a little bit less, right? How about your garden? Maybe you're someone who is, so I get this a lot. I help people design their gardens. I help them design their homesteads. And most of the people that come to me say, I am so overwhelmed. There's so much information out there. There's so many things to do to have a homestead. And I say to them, what do you love? What's the one thing about your homestead or that you would like to see that you absolutely love? And they're like, I want a garden. I just want a garden, but I don't know what to do. And I said, all right, you're gonna start with one thing. You're gonna start with a piece of paper and you're gonna draw a box on that paper that is a raised bed. And you're gonna make a list of all the things you would love to put into that raised bed, okay? That's one thing that you can do to decrease that overwhelm so that you're not feeling like I've got to do it all, okay? Maybe you're a parent and you want to decrease the overwhelm in your parenting styles or with your kids, right? You want to have some calmer household, right? So let's create one disciplined habit. Maybe everybody needs to get in bed at the right time. Maybe the habit is you turn the TV off so that there's quiet in your house, or you just turn it onto a YouTube jazz channel so that there is peaceful music going. That's one small habit you can do to begin to decrease that overwhelm and increase some calmness and freedom in your household, right? Okay, number 3, we're gonna make overwhelm our ally. We've been talking a lot about overwhelm. I am the classic gypsy of overwhelm because you guys, overwhelm's, it's just out there. It happens because we're human. We have a tendency to bite off more than we can chew. Can I get an amen? I know I'm like that. I started a foundation. Actually, it's not a foundation. I started an organization called East Tennessee Homestead Alliance. And it was really a dream of mine to see homesteaders in our area have a place to kind of land, to collect together, to grow, to be equipped, to begin to cultivate community. But my dream was so big and I was like, oh, I feel overwhelmed. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I'm like, how do I do this? And it almost paralyzed me to where I did nothing, because that can happen with overwhelm. Oftentimes we get to a place of overwhelm and we are then paralyzed. Do you ever feel like that? So some of my coaching clients in my personal training business, when we begin to create new habits or even create a new thought process, it can be overwhelming. And your brain wants to keep you safe. So it's going to begin shutting down in areas because it feels out of control. So we don't want to live there, but we do want to know that that can happen. And so how do we work with that? How do we make that a tool in our toolbox? Well, just like I did when I began this organization, I had to take a step back and be like, okay, why are you feeling overwhelmed? Well, I'm feeling overwhelmed because I'm probably trying to do too much. I'm trying to create big picture. So I said to myself, all right, so I'm a journaler. I found one of the ways that really helps with this sense of overwhelm and creating systems is to journal. I just began writing down all my thoughts, everything I wanted to do, all my dreams that were surrounding it, what it looked like. I would draw pictures. I would draw these mind maps, right, all over my journal. And what it did was it got it out of my brain, for starters, and down on paper. When I was able to look at it, then I was able to say, okay, where's going to be the best place to start? Well, I'm a huge proponent of reverse engineering everything. I never realized this was something until I began to listen to other influencers and podcasters talk about it, that this is what I actually was doing. I tend to work from the end and work my way back. So I would say, what is my ultimate goal with this? And I'd write that down. What are the ways in which I want to get to this goal? And I'd write those things down. This wasn't about creating a habit at this point. This was just about kind of dismantling the big rubber band ball, right, that seemed so tight, and I wasn't sure how to move from where I was to where I wanted to be. So I needed to go look at where I wanted to be and kind of begin moving backwards, and that's reverse engineering. And you can do that with anything. No matter what you're looking to do in life, you can reverse engineer. You start with your why. You can even start with your what. What is it that I want? Okay, I want more time freedom. All right, why do I want more time freedom? Because I want to spend less time on all of the things that don't matter, and I want to have more time with my kids, or I want to have more time with my spouse, or want to have more time to go hiking or adventure, doing the things that I love. Okay, why do you want that? Because I'm kind of tired of slaving on the day-to-day basis. I want it because it makes me feel alive, right? So you want to work your way backwards. As you begin to work your way backwards, then you have to say to yourself, all right, what are some disciplined habits, or what are some drills I need to put into place in order to get to those things? So for example, for the East Tennessee Homestead Alliance organization, I then had to say, all right, I need to begin putting in place some systems, or just some drills that are going to create a system. Every day I'm going to get up and I'm going to work on this particular item of what I need to do. So for us, we were going to have a festival. I'm like, I have 4 months to plan this festival. I have got to get laser focused in on how I'm going to do this, or it's going to be a mess. I've already got the date out there. So again, you see, I worked backwards. I knew I wanted Joel Salatin as my keynote speaker. This was in February of 2024, okay? We're still in 2024, almost out of it. I knew I wanted him as a keynote speaker. I also knew the location where I wanted it. In order to get those two matched up, I had to do some major planning. Well, the both of them matched up for a July festival. You guys, that gave me 4 months. March, April, May, June, July. So about 4.5 months that I had to plan this. So I began to reverse engineer it. I know I want them. Okay, now I have my date, and now I have my location. All right, now I got to keep going backwards from there and begin. So I wrote down, what are all the things that I need to do in order to make this a successful event? And I began to write those things down. Then I began to put them in an order of importance. This is really, really key. So especially if you are a creative, what can happen oftentimes is we begin to write these things down, but then we don't put them in an order of importance, and our squirrely brain thinks we got to do them all at one time, and we start working on everything at once. Well, what happens when you start in the kitchen cooking and you're starting to cook everything at once? Sometimes something gets burned. Sometimes the burner doesn't even get on something else, so it doesn't even get cooked, right? What I have really learned is to take a magnifying glass and begin to do a deep focus on whatever task needs to happen for that particular outcome that I'm looking for, okay? So that is your next step. No matter what it is that you're looking to do, you want to begin to reverse engineer. Ask yourself why, ask yourself what it is, and what steps you need. Just write them down, and then put them in an order of priority, all right? So that's actually habit number 4, is creating those routines. When my kids were little, I was a stay-at-home mom, 5 kids, and I homeschooled them. And for me, it was a little bit overwhelming to like create a task list. So instead I created a morning routine, an afternoon routine, and an evening routine. And they were flexible, and that was really helpful for me. My kids knew, every morning we get up, we start with our chore. We start with everybody brushes their teeth, everybody takes their pajamas off and puts them back in their drawer, everybody gets dressed, and they make their bed. They had to do that before they even came out of their room. That became teaching them really good disciplined habits to get their day started off on the right foot. So that was a part of our morning routine. We'd move into then coming out, everyone got their breakfast. After breakfast, everyone had a small little chore list that they would do. All of these things we would do every single day, repeat after repeat after repeat. And it became ingrained to them to the point where they didn't even have to go over to the little calendar on the fridge and check it off, right? Because it became just commonplace to them. So then we would have an afternoon routine. They knew lunch, everyone goes down for quiet time. I didn't care how old you were, because mama needed quiet time. Can you feel me now? And then they would have productive time. So they'd have quiet time. Then they would come out to the kitchen, or they would go outside, they'd have productive time. We didn't have a television. So my kids did not grow up with TV. We had this little tiny, oh my gosh, this was way back in the day. So there was no cell phone, no social media, none of that. We had this little tiny monitor that we would plug in a DVD, we didn't have DVDs, we had VHS. We'd plug in a VHS, and they got 30 minutes of a VHS later in the afternoon after they'd done all their productive time, right? They had to read a certain amount of time, they had to go outside and play, and then they got to come in for those 30 minutes. During that 30 minutes is when I would begin to set up for supper. They were fine sitting there for that 30 minutes. It gave me a focused 30 minutes to get after whatever dinner hour or whatever we were going to do for dinner, right? And then we would have our evening routine. Our dinner, we had certain chores for everyone to clean up. Daddy would be, then it was daddy's time with them, while I would then clean the kitchen with maybe one of the kids helping me, right? So we had these routines that we did day after day after day. And yes, did it kind of seem like it could have been boring? It did, but you know what it did? It created security in me. It created security in my kids, because they knew what to expect each and every day. And was it flexible? Yeah. Were there days that we had errands to do or things to go take care of? Absolutely. Did dinner become goldfish and cereal some nights? You betcha. But as a whole, we began this every single day, and it became a lifestyle. To this day, my kids are all grown. I have 11 grandkids now. My kids are now doing it with their kids, because they see that it creates the calmness. It creates a more freedom in their lives to do the things they want to do, because they're not constantly spinning their wheels all over the place, trying to play catch up everywhere, right? Having kids that are spiraling out of control, having a homestead that's spiraling out of control because we threw too much spaghetti at the wall, okay? All right, lastly, number 5 is celebrate your wins. This is a really good habit, and I think as women, we don't tend to do this as much. We tend to be really hard on ourselves, thinking really mostly about what we didn't do, what wasn't working, how we failed in our day. We don't celebrate just those small wins. Man, today, your little one got his pants on by himself. That is a win, right? Today, you got your makeup on, you got a shower. That is a win. Today, you created a whole brand new course, digital course. That is a win. Or you started one. Maybe you started a new habit course for yourself. Maybe you've gone a whole week with a disciplined habit of drinking more water each day, getting your workouts in each day, choosing 20 minutes to go for yourself for a walk each day. Okay? Celebrate those wins. You need them. I need them. I don't care how accomplished we become. We need those wins in our lives. So I hope today that this has added value to you, that you can see that boring drilling systems can actually become really spicy in our lives, because it begins to open up the door for so much more freedom, so much more of a wildcrafted life, so that you can begin to do the things that you love. You can begin to be with the people that you love, and you're much less overwhelmed. I'm actually putting together right now a system, a course, a guide, whatever you want to call it, where we're going to lean into the power of reverse engineering. All right? You can reverse engineer your life. You can. And I hope you'll hear from more. Thanks for joining me today. I hope to see you here next time. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to like this video. I would love your comments. What have you done? What have you done? What habits have you formed? What systems are you using in your life? People read comments. You know what? I spend a lot of time on YouTube just reading people's comments. I learn so much, and I hope you will do the same. Drop it down below, and I'll see you again right here next time on A Wildcrafted Life.